Hey, y'all, it's Michelle with SLP Full Disclosure. We have a really exciting guest joining us today, and we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of you guys have not heard about. It's called Ner Chat. And you might be thinking, what is Ner Chat? Well, Ner Chat is a groundbreaking AAC platform that is changing how people with communication differences communicate and connect with people in their everyday lives. Instead of being limited to standalone apps, Ner Chat integrates AAC directly into mainstream messaging, making conversations natural, inclusive, and seamless. I came across Ner Chat with AMN Healthcare because of our Elevate platform, and it is integrated into our Elevate platform, and it is absolutely amazing. So joining me today is Dylan Makani. So Dylan is the founder and creator of Ner Chat. And he's going to share his journey behind developing the app, creating this tool, and why he came about doing this in the first place. And it is absolutely the most beautiful story. And you guys are definitely going to want to stay tuned and listen to this. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Dylan. Dylan is the co-founder and CEO of Ner Chat, creators of Glint, a fast, easy-to-use platform that helps educators and specialists produce high-quality visual supports in seconds. He is pursuing his MD at the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences, a Vanderbilt graduate in neuroscience and in medicine, health, and let me start over. All right. Dylan is the co-founder and CEO of Ner Chat, creators of Glint, a fast and easy-to-use platform that helps educators and specialists produce high-quality visual supports in seconds. He is pursuing his MD at the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. A Vanderbilt graduate in neuroscience and in medicine, Dylan began in neuroscience research and later worked in finance with a focus on healthcare investing. Inspired by a close friend's experience, he co-founded Ner Chat to deliver simple, scalable tools for providers and families. So, Dylan, before we get started, I want you to share the beautiful story that you shared with us in our intro call about what inspired you to create Ner Chat.
Sure. And Michelle, thanks so much again for having me here. Super excited and big fan of the show. I really feel that everyone who gets into this space always has some sort of tie or connection. And mine really was just through a very close friend of mine. So, as you know, I'm from New York. I went to school out in Vanderbilt, in Nashville, and was very passionate about, volunteering in a couple of awesome programs. So one that I was particularly involved in was called Best Buddies. And through this amazing program, I actually got to meet a very close friend of mine who happened to be an AAC user. And at the time, I really did not really know much about AAC, but it was kind of a novel experience. We had and developed such a close friendship. But one of the roadblocks that we experienced was that every time I would go back and forth between New York and Nashville, between our semesters, we would lose touch because his device really restricted him to, robust communication only when we were together in person. It put so much strain on our relationship, and I always wish that there was just an easier way that we could have done this. And that got us interested in this whole, assistive technology space. I really wanted to learn about how are we creating technology to support, our learners in the community. So I ended up volunteering in a couple of local schools and clinics, trying to understand what is AAC and what is assistive technology in general. And since then, we kind of have just been building a variety of different products. Just for some context, some of the products we built have been, AAC focused, have been, working on those gaps in which AAC has some shortfalls. And we landed on a really burning problem recently, which has been the time to creation of personalized visual supports. So that's been the focus of our work right now. Is just we've found that so many providers in the Care Circle network are, scrolling endlessly on Teachers Pay Teachers or dragging symbols manually on different platforms to create visuals.
Yeah.
And it just takes so long. And it ends up being a really, really tough undertaking. So we wanted to simplify that. So the past couple of months, our focus has been something new called Glint, which we've been pushing pretty hard and seeing some amazing results.
So you decided to build this platform because you had a friend who was an augmentative communication user, and it limited your ability to communicate with him when you were not face to face. And when
Right.
I
Yeah.
learned about this app and learned about this platform, it had never dawned on me that augmentative communication users really are limited to communicating with others face to face. Unless you've got someone there that you can help them FaceTime and do all of those things. But in an app, so it's in a messaging system. Is that correct? So you can use it as a messaging system, like a text message or something like that. How does that work?
Right. So when we think about this AAC platform, that was our original product called Leaf. So Leaf is all about how can we take AAC and put it in places
Mhm.
where it doesn't exist already. The number one place was trying to fill in that gap of if I'm trying to text in a family group chat, if I'm trying to communicate in a digital space, and we are living in such an
Mhm.
increasingly digital world. And because of that, many users who have alternative sources of communication end up falling through the cracks because technology is not
Right.
designed for that. Well, to send the text message or to work, send an email and do a lot of these things that we regard as being easy for us may not be so easy. So what we did was we embedded a symbol-based keyboard into iOS so that the same way you switch from one language to another, you can switch to this
And that's called
symbol-based
Leaf,
keyboard.
correct? Now how would
Yes,
you
yeah,
get
that's
access to Leaf? How would I get access to Leaf? Or if someone out there listening wants it, how do you get it?
Yeah, Leaf is an application on the App Store that you can just look up.
So it's kind of like switching back and forth between that emoji keyboard and all of that. So instead of an emoji, you're
Exactly. Yeah,
inserting the AAC icons.
exactly, with the speech output
Wow, that
as
is so
well.
amazing. How long did it take you guys to develop that?
That was a pretty hard undertaking. It took us, about 6 months-ish because you have to go through Apple and a lot of, red tape to get even close to
Yeah.
what we built with that,
Now,
so
do you and your friend use this Leaf currently to communicate? Wow.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's easy, it was
Oh,
easy
yeah.
for him, so is it on his device? So it's a separate app on his device that then connects to a messaging service?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly, and the thing that we see with Leaf is all the different modalities that people are using it, things that we didn't dream of when we initially created it. So, we see people with Leaf texting in the family group chat
Mhm.
for their first time, or writing an email or commenting on Instagram and doing things that generally they would not be able to
Wow,
formally.
that is amazing. So it just opened up a whole new world for our AAC users and for friends and family who have someone who uses an augmentative communication device. That is amazing.
Yeah,
Is it pretty
exactly.
easy to navigate? Now,
Oh, yeah.
where are the
Oh, yeah.
symbols coming from? Are they symbols from like the language that we're familiar with in the speech language world, or where are the symbols coming from?
Yeah, we use a
Mhm.
set called Symbol Sticks, so this is like one
Yeah.
of, gold standard sets that we see out there. So we have their symbols that we license, and you can customize everything
Wow.
in our
So
app.
it's also customizable. That's the one thing that I love about what's in
Yes,
my Televate
exactly.
room. I love it. All right. So we have
Oh,
Leaf,
yeah.
which is an app that's going to allow communication device users to communicate with others. Now, let's talk about Ner Chat and Glints. Tell me the difference between Ner Chat and Glints. How do they go together?
So this is a great question and one that has been a
Okay.
little confusing to some people, but simple answer is this: NearChat is our company, and Glint is our
Okay.
main
So
product.
Ner Chat is the overall arching company and Glints is the product.
Glint is when we talk about the visual
Okay.
creation
All right.
product.
So
Yeah.
in your words, when people ask you, "Hey, Dylan, what is Ner Chat?" What is your response to that?
Yeah, so we just say NearChat is our company. We develop different types of assistive technology tools, such as Glint and Leaf.
Okay.
So that's kind of
All
like
right. So
think
let's
about it.
talk about Glint. Tell us what that is.
So this is kind of the main focus of NearChat for the
Okay.
past 3-4 months. It's very exciting. It's linking to that age-old problem I told you before of
Mhm.
making visuals, right? So again, we found so many educators and providers just spending their Sundays like dragging symbols on BoardMaker or scrolling
Yeah,
endlessly
that's
on
me.
Teachers Pay Teachers
Yeah.
to write visual. And it's often just hard to do that, especially if you have a high caseload, you're
Mhm.
working in a school district or some different type of scenario where you can't allot that much time. Um, Glint, at its core, is designed to really enhance speech and learning outcomes for complex learners. And we do that by making visual supports ridiculously easy for you. So all you have to do is select what type of creation you're trying to make, what type of visual, whether it be like a simple grid to a social story to a task analysis board and many, many more. You type in your topic and it creates it in a
Yeah.
couple of
I
seconds
know
for
that
you.
when we did the training with AMN, and I think you were on, I think you did the training, and we were all in a Zoom call and they were showing us how it worked. And I think at one point during your presentation while you were showing us that my mouth was dropped open. I was like it was so, so fast. You guys do not understand. You have got to go to their website. You have got to take a look at this product. It was amazing. And when I say seconds, when he said ridiculously fast, he was not exaggerating. It was so fast. I think you did one about going to a coffee shop, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
I
good
mean,
memory.
and you literally just type in what you want. You choose how big you want the grid. Do you want a 2 by 2? Do you want a 3 by 3? Do you want, whatever you want, however big you want the grid? And then you type in what pictures you want, and it automatically goes into all of the grid. Like it fills the grid. You don't have to, like he said, click and drag. And every speech pathologist out there that's worked with an AAC device knows exactly what you're talking about. It is so tedious. It is so tireless. And then you can't find the symbols that you're looking for. But one of my favorite things, and I want you to explain this because I don't have the technology background, you are integrated with Google. All right. Okay. So
Right.
then Dylan shows us that, I mean, so the speech pathologist listening, you guys know you've got your symbols up there, but you might have some kids that do better with real images. So instead of the symbol for bathroom, they may need a picture of a real toilet or a symbol of apple juice. They might need a picture of the actual apple juice that they drink when they're at home or they're at school. So tell us what you guys did with Google. It blew my mind. This is the part in your presentation that my mouth dropped open.
Yeah. So Michelle, we often saw that, many therapists were just pulling from Google Images to, create materials for their unique learners. And what we just did instead was said, hey, can we create a button, a one-click integration that allows you to pull from this Google image repository and
Mhm.
bring it into your
Yeah,
visual right
and
now?
that he's right. It's one button. You literally click the button up at the top that says change image. Is that what it says? Or yeah, it says change image.
Yeah.
You click the button and Google pops up. And you can type in whatever you want and then you click it and it's there. There's no dragging, there's no searching, there's no switching back from page to page, going to Google, saving the image, copying the image, then the image being too large. Sometimes the image you choose is too large. None of that. Guys, it is mind blowing how fast it is. And I absolutely loved it. And as an AMN teletherapist, having it integrated into my Televate room where I can just click a button and it comes up, it's amazing. Talk about the share feature. Explain that. I'm going to explain it from a speech pathologist's view, and I want you to explain the technology and how that works. So, not only when I use Ner Chat in my room, if I create a board, let's say we're doing a bubbles. We're requesting bubbles. We're requesting different activities, and I've got 5 symbols up there, and we've used that in our virtual speech session. Then what? Do we just let it go? That's kind of unique to that 30-minute session. Oh no, NairChat has allowed you to share that exact board with educators, with the teachers, with the parafacilitators, and with the parents. So then they have the exact same board that you worked on in your speech session. And when I share it, correct me if I'm wrong, Dylan, they don't have to have anything special on their phone to access it. So let's talk about that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Michelle. So, a couple things that make us very unique are number one, the speech output. So, when you create materials, generally, they come out
Okay.
as what we call static, right? They're just there. You can't really hear anything, but we try to take both three things, the image, the text, and the audio output. So, when you click on the symbols, you
Okay.
get this audio, right? And that's a really research backed way of improving speech and learning outcomes. So, building on top of that, we felt it's one thing for, an educator or a specialist to have that on their device or to be able to share it. But really, what's important is that whatever visual you're creating, a social story, a task analysis, a verb sheet, whatever you're working on needs to be done and shared in
Right.
other sorts of scenarios, right? Our goal is at the end of the day to give our learners more autonomy and independence. And that includes allowing them to utilize their visuals in any scenario
Mhm.
where it could come in handy. And with anyone in their care circle, families at home, educators in the school, wherever it is. So we added a way, which you're talking about, where any Glint, if you have a Glint account, you can share any visual via a link
Mhm.
or a QR code. And what that means is whoever is the recipient of that link or scans the QR code will be able to have access to that exact visual you created
Yeah,
with the
and I
voice
forgot
output.
about the voice output piece. It's not just you're not just clicking on pictures, they're actually and you can change the voices, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's like having access to an AAC device that you develop yourself in on your computer, right? That's kind of what it's like. Like, I can create anything I want, social stories, like he said, task analysis, daily schedules, and boom, it's done in seconds, and I think that's another part that I loved about it is that it was automatic, it was fast. So I was like, "Okay, we've got 5 a schedule of 5," and you can change the layout, how do you want it? I mean, it is absolutely amazing. It was so easy to learn how to use. That was another thing that I loved about it. Typically, you have to, the settings and you go here and you go there, and are we hiding things? Are we doing this? You just create it and it's there. It was amazing. So we're talking about the Ner Chat being integrated into the Televate therapy room. And as an AMN teletherapist, that's what I use every day. Tell me how your relationship with AMN came about.
It's a great question, actually. So it all came about because of a referral I got to Jen O'Keefe, actually, who really is one of the key drivers of the whole AMN SLP program. So something I really love about this space is that the educator and therapy space are very tight knit. So people are so willing to bounce you around and give you advice and give you ideas. So very early on, maybe about a year ago, I was able to meet with Jen, and we were just brainstorming and spitballing what would an ideal world look like for our AAC users and folks who benefit
Mhm,
from symbol-based visuals. And we were like, wow, it would be so cool and impactful if you could have that on
mhm,
these teletherapy platforms. At the time, this wasn't something that was ever thought of or existed. So from then, we just put the plans in motion. We ended up working very closely with some of the key companies like AMN and CoVU and really went to work and eventually created
yeah,
this integration.
and
And
it
now
is unbelievable. But you don't have to be an AMN teletherapist to access this platform. Tell our listeners how they can go about getting access to this and all of the wonderful things that we've been talking about today.
yeah, Glint as a standalone website is just available if you go to www.nerchat.com. You can just go on there, log into Glint, and create your account. And everyone has access to 10 free visuals that
Mhm.
they can make every month. So that, in effect, just allows you to see, is this a good fit? Is this something that could help support, my
Okay.
learners?
And then Leaf, they go on just Apple App Store to get the Leaf
Yeah,
app. All right.
exactly.
Now let's talk about some success stories. I think we mentioned this a little bit in our intro call. So I want to hear about some success stories that you could share with us with Nair Chat.
Yeah, it's a really good question. There are always so many, and that's honestly my favorite part about working in this
Yeah.
space is what are the outcomes. So one of the best things about Glint that we see is that visuals in the past used to be restricted to maybe a couple of people who are really good at using like one of those
Hmm.
visual softwares, right? Um, Now anybody can be a Glint expert and a visual superhero, right? They can support a whole school just with their accounts. And one of the greatest things was a school out in Georgia. I was meeting with one SLP out there, and she told me, "Listen, I've been in the space for 40 years, and I've never seen a platform that's this
She's right.
easy to use." And the thing that she mentioned that always stuck with me was like she had mentioned, "I made more visuals in the past 5 days than I did
Hmm.
in the past 3 years," and I think that just goes to show how impactful the ease of use can be and how that leads to a lot of these outcomes. And she told me specifically, we use Glint because we want to challenge our learners to be their best selves because the software is so good at meeting students and
Hmm.
learners where they are today. That's the whole benefit of it is being able to
Yeah.
tailor, right? And it reminds me of one story that I also heard, which was about, you know, someone who was going to the doctor, and it was a complex learner, and they were very, very
Mhm.
afraid of getting a shot at the doctor. So the SLP, a good friend of mine, knew that he loved Mario. He loved watching Mario. So she went ahead and created him this social story about, Ben, his name wasn't Ben, but Ben, watching Mario on the way to the
Mhm.
doctor to get his shot. Within a couple seconds, had this whipped up and had started practicing that with him and sent it home with mom. And mom started using that in the car on the way to the doctor. Instead of throwing, and getting very, very anxious and angry and really upset, he was actually listening to the story.
Mhm.
He was processing it. And he ended up being super calm throughout it because the social story that was personal to him helped him realize what was going to happen. It made him more comfortable with
Right.
what was to
And
come.
I think what I take away from that, a beautiful story, is that that SLP was able to create that social story in minutes, like a handful of minutes, less than 5 minutes, maybe less than 3 minutes. And she was able to share it with his mom. And it was the exact same one that she was talking about in school. She was able to share it with his teachers. She was able to share it with everyone, and everyone had the exact same one, and it shared electronically. No more printing, no more using all that color ink, no more, losing it because mom's always going to have her phone. The teachers are going to always have access to their computers. So, but you can also print them out. But I remember, and you're right, it's just the ease and just how rapid you can get these done. And the SLP that said she had created more visuals in 5 days than she had in the last, 3 or 4 years because it is so easy to use and it is so fast. I love that. It is amazing. How do you see Nair Chat in the future fitting into schools, therapy sessions? Do you have more people that are more SLPs that are accessing it, or have you gotten more families or individuals with who are augmentative communication users?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our primary focus with Glint these days is all about how can we be the best provider tool possible. So our main users are,
Mhm.
special educators and speech pathologists are our two main, parties who are using us. And that's because they kind of have the background and experiences and they're already using other softwares to create visuals. So for them, it's allowing them to save time and spend time on
Mhm.
things that matter more. What's coming is the future is we are just expanding the capabilities of what we're able to create. Right now we may have like 20-ish types of high yield speech pathology
Mhm.
and special ed templates. You're always adding more. And that's our biggest growth area. The plan is really to start growing after we do well with our special educators and our SLPs to trickle down and help support parents and families. We already have many users who are like that, but really just driving a greater focus
Yeah.
on that area as well.
It is you guys have got to go check it out. We're gonna have everything tagged in our, podcast so that you guys can access it, and reach out to the support. I know that I've had a couple of issues here and there with mine, and you guys have been amazing. Just the customer support with us has just been incredible, and it is an amazing platform. Nair Chat, Glint, Leaf. I can't wait to try the Leaf app. I need to do that today. I may have to try that out. Dylan, if you could share one message with families or professionals, what would that message be?
Wow, that's deep. I think the message to send would be you're not alone, meaning often, families or providers could feel pretty overburdened with some of the caseloads or life at times when you are working with someone who has, is a complex learner. And I think it can feel isolating. It can feel like you're just in this tiny black box alone. You may feeling like burnout a little bit. You could just have so much on your plate, but just to know that you are not alone in this space and there's so many amazing communities that you can be a part of and amazing providers and individuals and technologies who are coming here just to work and build for you to save you time and really enable your quality of life to be better and better. So just knowing that that is there for you too. You are
I love
definitely
it.
not alone.
Because oftentimes especially when we're working with those complex learners, I know as a speech pathologist, we think there's so much more I could do. It took me 45 minutes or, an hour to make this one page on their one AAC device. But now the book of the week is over, and now I've got to go back in and I've got to create another page for that book of the week because there's a new book of the week every week, right? And it can very quickly be overwhelming. So I love that. You're not alone. And there is technology out there like Ner Chat that is making this easier for SLPs, for families, and for our complex learners. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. And I want you to explain this a little bit. I think you and Katie, our producer, have been talking about doing some clips and some videos because I know talking about this platform and getting the word out there and letting people know that it's there and that they can access it on their computers from their phones. That's great. But what you guys need to see is how it works. And so, Dylan, you're going to work on creating some short video clips that we can post to our social medias just to show people that are listening to this podcast. And I know you're probably trying to visualize it in your mind. That's what we all do. But tell us how you're going to do that and what you're going to do.
Yeah, we're super excited. Usually the best thing is if we can get someone on a demo. We always say we can make you an expert in Glint in 10 minutes. And we're not lying. It's actually true if you schedule a demo with us. So I'm excited to just start making more of this short form content to show, people how are we using Glint today and how it can be applicable to you. So
you guys
be
watch
exciting.
our social media platforms, watch our TikTok, SLP Full Disclosure on TikTok. Watch our page because I think that Dylan's going to be creating some really fun demos that we're going to be able to share for you guys. And when you see how fast it is, I promise you're going to be like me, jaw on the floor. You're going to be amazed. It is an amazing platform, and you guys need to all go check it out. So, Dylan, thank you so much for joining us today. And I just found out that you're going to be at ASHA. I know this episode's going to come out after ASHA, but I'm super excited to meet you in a few weeks. So, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have everything linked in our podcast, and you guys watch our SLP Full Disclosure TikTok because Dylan is going to be sending us over some great demos for us to show you guys so you can see how amazing this platform is. So thank you guys for joining us. We've enjoyed it, and we will talk to y'all soon. Thank you for tuning in to SLP Full Disclosure. You can learn more about this episode and our show on our website at amnhealthcare.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find show updates and SLP opportunities on our Instagram at AMN Allied. Special thanks to AMN Healthcare for making this show possible. See y'all next time.